Hi everybody, I'm Greg Hafner, owner of Farther Garden. Basil is one of our favorite herbs, and I love to cook in the summer with fresh herbs. Basil, tomatoes, and mozzarella cheese, it doesn't get much better than that. We've got our bumper crop this year. I'd like to show you how to freeze it. First thing we need to do is to trim our basil and take it inside to wash it and prepare it. Let me show you how to trim it. First thing we need to do is cut the basil. You cut it back to 2 leaves, where you can see right here, there's 2 leaves. If you trim it right above that, you'll give the basil plenty of room to grow out and produce even more basil later on in the summer. This is the crop that's not been cut, and here's some that have been cut. Once you get your container full of basil, we'll head inside to wash it up and get it ready to freeze. Now I'd like to share a few growing tips with you. This is what the flower looks like on a basil plant. Anytime a basil plant starts to flower, it quits producing leaves and starts to produce flowers. We want it to continue to produce the leaves, which we can eat. So the best thing to do is come along and snip off the tips where the flowers are starting to form. Just snip it off just like this, and it will continue to form leaves. Basil also likes a lot of water and a lot of fertilizer. When we planted this basil back in May, we used some Osmocote, which is a slow-release fertilizer, and it's nice and green. Now that we're into the end of July, we need to come along with a liquid feed and continue to feed our basil once the Osmocote has worn off. Keeping the fertility high on basil keeps it nice and green and lush, just like these plants. Now that we've cut our basil, we moved inside. First thing we're going to do is dump it in the sink for our rough wash. Dumped it in the sink, so we're going to rinse it off. Once we give it a rough rinse, I like to snip off the good leaves off the stems and throw them into a salad spinner. Once you've rinsed the leaves individually, you can put them in the spinner, give them one more quick wash, throw it in the container, and give it a spin. If you don't happen to have a salad spinner, you can always put it on paper towels and pat it dry. Now that our basil is all washed and dry, next thing we can do is just chop it up. You can use a chopping board and a knife, or else a food processor, which I've opted to use. It makes it much easier. You just fill the food processor. By the way, I've got a very small food processor, so we may have to do several batches of it. I've stuffed it full, about as full as I can get it. Put the top on and pulse it. I pulse it to get a rough chop on it. Then I add a little EVOO, extra virgin olive oil, and pulse it just a little bit more. You don't want to pulse it until it's really chopped fine. Just a rough cut is perfect. Something like this. Next thing we do is put it into a ice cube tray. We just put about a tablespoon or more, whatever it takes to fill the ice cube tray up, and we're just about done. We just fill up the ice cube trays, all about the same depth, and then we're going to pop it in the freezer and let it freeze. As soon as it's frozen, you can take it out, put them in Ziploc bags, and they're ready to go for the winter. You have a bit of summer all year. Hope you enjoyed this suggestion on how to freeze basil.